Right, hi world.
Hey guys, so welcome to part 2 of our delivery story of Kirill's birth.
So this will be more emotional, so make sure that you have your tissues and popcorn on. So let's go.
If you haven't watched part 1, make sure to watch part 1. We're gonna put it under the description box, wherever this guy is gonna put it. So make sure you watch part 1. Thank you again for watching.
Let's go.
We're back, guys. I had to take a break because I'm just getting very emotional thinking about all this. So as I was saying, 37 weeks, I go to the hospital with my mom. Right before leaving, after my checkup, the doctor asked me, is there anything you want to tell us that you feel is wrong or like any worries? And I said, I feel like Kirill is not kicking as much as his sister was kicking. The doctor looked at each other and I could see the worry in their face. And they're like, okay, stay here, we're gonna do a scan. They did a scan and they discovered that my placenta stopped working, which means that he was not getting fed. And he lost weight also. I don't know, well, they used technology, but they told me that he lost 1.5 kilos. And he was not eating, he was not growing, and they had to do the C-section, in emergency C-section to deliver him. And Max was in Moscow, and I just knew that I couldn't do it if Max wasn't here, because I was just so drained. I just needed him. My mom was there, but you know, she's not the one who got me pregnant. So it was a different one. And but because Annabelle was a spontaneous birth, they gave me a chance. They were like, we're gonna try to induce you. If it doesn't work, we're gonna do the C-section. So when they gave me the news, I texted Max to tell him that, look, I think it was from the first text up until the second text, it was a bit of an hour delay. Like I texted you, I think the first time when I got in the hospital, I texted you, and a couple of hours later when I got the news, I texted you again. So the first text that you got, everything was okay, and then a couple of hours later you get a text that says that they need to deliver him now. Remember?
What I do remember is that, you know, like I am in Moscow, so we had, you know, we had an event. So me and my colleagues were sitting in the restaurant, right, having a dinner. And I remember I ordered, you know, like very nice, you know, steak, you know, like it was very nice food. So, you know, 2 of my colleagues with me, and I'm receiving the text message. And what I do remember from that text message, and it still doesn't make sense here, it says that, you know, call me, but don't call me on WhatsApp, call me on like on the normal line. And I was like, you know, why is it normal line? Like how, like... Because
WhatsApp was not working well in the hospital.
I was like, you know, what's going on? How am I going to call normal line? But I remember, I think I called on WhatsApp, but I actually remember that moment that, you know, the text, and I'm calling her, you know, and I'm like, I remember there's a staircase in that restaurant, and I'm standing there, and I'm talking, and Patricia, she's saying to me that, yeah, you know, they decided to put me in a hospital now, so you need to come right now. And I had my, you know, my business trip was like, you know, 7 days, yeah, so I arrived on Sunday, and I was supposed to travel back on Saturday, right? And that was just, it was Wednesday, because on Tuesday we had an event, and no, the Wednesday there was, you know, the next day. And I remember, you know, she says like, you have to, you know, you have to come now. And my state at the time, like I literally, like me being me, but at that point, I did not know what to do. Like I was like, I was in the state, yeah, I was in the state, I did not know what should I do, you know, like, so I had to change the tickets, you know, I had to cut, you know, or I have to tell her like, okay, wait, I'm coming Saturday. Like I just, like, I don't know, you know, in my mind, like I don't know what to do. And at that time, you know, my colleague Chris, you know, like that was like really, you know, from that moment, I love the guy, yeah. And he actually, you know, so when I say, you know, to him and my other colleague, you know, what is happening, he just took my phone because he by looking at me he realized that I'm shocked, like I cannot function, and he actually called, so he contacted our directors, managers, said, look, the guy, he has to travel right now, and it's good, that my director at the time, as well, is a great guy, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. So they organized, because that was outside of the range, like it has to be approved by like the very high kind of level. So they did, I called the the airlines, and the booking system. They're like, look, we cannot exchange the ticket, you have to buy the new one. We're like, look, just get me the ticket. And like I remember, and what I do remember is that the food that I ordered, I haven't even touched it. Like I haven't even touched it, like from there, I think, like half an hour, 40 minutes later, whatever, we was on the phone when, an hour when everything was organized. I just took the cab. I remember, the night, I pack up my clothes, and I had to, print out something. So I asked the reception in that hotel to print something out. I remember the trip on the taxi. I was in a state where, in my mind, there was one thing, and that thing was, just to get, to my wife, that was the only thought that was going through my head. And I remember, getting in a taxi, I was traveling, I was chatting to a guy. I remember we talked about snooker, funny enough, I actually remember the conversation. I remember sitting in the the airport. I remember getting on the plane. I remember, because I had to travel through Germany, and when you changing, so you had to get from one, plane to another, and you have to go through the the control. There's a scanner there, and the guy, he asked me, to take off the shoes, this and that. Like I haven't said a word. Like literally, like I was silent. It was a silence. I haven't talked to anyone. It was just like I was so focused on it. And at that time, in my mind, I won't say that I was not worried. I knew that everything is gonna be fine, but I just wanted to get to my wife, so that was, that at that time, that was my mission. And I remember, getting, in the airport, in Dublin, getting on the cab. I was talking to the guy, and I remember, I actually have memories, those flashbacks, getting, to the, to our house where we live at that time. And what I do remember, I didn't have the house key, so I asked mom, Patricia's mom, to leave the key somewhere. So I remember picking up the key, jumping in the car, getting to that the hospital where Patricia was. And I remember getting there, and as I entered the hospital, I'm going towards the lifts, and the lift is open, and she's coming out, with her mother, from the lift, and like I just hold her, and she started crying, and
I may cry, baby, if you haven't realized it yet.
Yeah, so to me, so literally it was so from when I received the text, that was 6 p.m. on Wednesday. 6 a.m. I was in the airport, flying from Russia to Germany. 2 p.m. that was the time I was already in the hospital. So from there, I remember getting, she was on the bed, and I was so tired, from the travel, from not sleeping at night, from from all this, emotional. I don't think I had anything, but I do remember I was so tired, and she was on the bed, and I kind of laid down next to her at her feet, and I slept a little bit. And then what I also remember is that Rihanna, let me more work, la la la.
I don't remember.
It was playing on the radio. It was playing on the radio there. I actually remember that song. Work.
I was working, all right.
So then, the doctors, I remember.
Oh, you're going ahead. First, okay, you get at the hospital, yeah? But remember, they told me that they were going to try to induce me naturally, because my first delivery was natural. They tried to induce me, and I wouldn't, you have to be like 10 centimeters, and I was not dilated anything. Kirill is very stubborn. He was not working with me. I'm joking. So the induction, I don't know how you said, didn't work. And what they did is they also prepared me for a C-section. So I wore the socks. You have to wear some socks, I think, to avoid blood clot or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. So they did all the background check to make sure that if I have to go for an emergency C-section, that I will be prepared. And I have to say that hospital was treated us so well. This is the same hospital that Annabelle was born. The nurses were so nice, were so lovely. And even with Kirill, it was the same experience. They made me feel very safe, and I just knew that I was in good hands. So basically they tried to induce me, it didn't work. And literally, so when Max is saying that he saw me, so when the lift opened and he saw me with my mom, I was going into another department because they told me that, look, you're not dilating enough, we have to actually have a C-section. And I was praying in my heart that please Max, come here before this, because I wanted Kirill to at least see him if he couldn't see me, if I was gonna be too tired or if I was gonna be sleeping. I wanted Kirill to have at least one of his parents when he comes to this world. So yeah, that's what you saw. So I was going with to get to another yard to have a C-section. And yeah, we got there. You slept because you were super tired. I was relieved. And then what?
And then the doctors, I remember, they were kind of, coming and checking like every hour, every 30 minutes. And then it was, I'd say, it was around, 9 p.m. Like I wasn't sleeping, like 8, 9, they were kind of, coming and check. What I do remember, it was like, it's the noise, the noise were kind of, getting louder and louder and louder. It's the sense, that something isn't right, and
Yeah.
they would keep coming and, like they were doing the test, and then, what they do, they just go there, they do some measurement, they're like, oh yeah, everything is fine, and then they go and they will have some whispering, like, like talking between themselves, like explaining, having this
Internal
consultancy, conversations. And then what I do remember, like this is exactly, how I remember this, is that at some point they came and the guy was the doctor. He was, I think he was Asian doctor, yeah. And he was he was doing, so he was doing some checkup. At some point he was like, okay, let's do it now.
I know what he said. He said, I'm not happy with this. That's it. We're gonna do the C-section, and he acted very quickly.
Yeah.
So because Kirill's heartbeat kept on dropping, and so what was happening is that they were monitoring him, and his heartbeat kept on dropping and going back up, going back up. And the reason the reason of that, we learned afterwards, is because the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck not 2 times but 3 times. Therefore, he will be pulling on the umbilical cord, he will be strangling himself, he wouldn't be able to breathe, and then he will let go, and then he will do it again, and then he will let go. So when the heartbeat was dropping, it's because he couldn't breathe, and then he will let go and he will breathe again. So that's what happened, and the doctor was like, I'm not happy with this up and down, we're gonna give you a C-section. And I knew it was the right decision, but my entire body from head to toe started shaking. I couldn't control myself. It was just like I was shaking. And I remember before so I'm in the operating room. It's a very sterile environment, it's very clinical, it's very gray, it's not a nice place to look at. And they put the mask on me to put me to sleep, because the doctor saw that he had to completely put me out, because I was not in a position to, because I know that if you have a C-section they can just sterilize you. I don't know what is the word, so you couldn't feel anything. Anesthetic from just the upper body. But for me, they just had to completely put me out because I was shaking. And I remember the doctor, before he put the mask on me, he asked me to count to 10. And I count to 5, and I was like, but I don't want to feel anything. And he was so nice, he was so gentle. He stroked my head and he said, everything will be fine. And that's the last thing I remember. He went like this, and he told me everything will be fine. And that's all I remember. And I was out.
yeah, so when when they start, so she was on that bed, and I think they put her onto the other bed, the one that you can carry on the wheels, and um, so we were in that in that room. So then the doctor said, okay, look, we have to act right now. So they taking her, and we kind of we go towards that the operational theater, and I remember because we still had the bags, and I'm like so what do? Do I take the bags? And one of the nurses, she says like, yeah, you go take the bags or something. So I grab the bags and I'm following them, and that's just we entering. I was following them, and as we're entering, there's these doors, for the theater. I think the other doctor says like, okay, who is he? Oh, his husband. Oh no, sorry, you cannot go there. And I'm like, yeah, but the other person, she says that I can. So I remember that was a bit of this, like you can't, and excuse me, I just so yeah, so they asked me to wait outside, and I'm with these bags, but like literally I was in the like, I was shocked, with everything that is happening.
Tired, hungry.
It was like at those moments, yeah, it's just you don't know what to do. Okay, like those bags. Do I need those bags? I didn't even need those bags, But it was just because you don't know what to do. And what I do remember, so I'm sitting there, and the time was around 9. I say 9:40. I'd say it was like 20 minutes, 40 minutes later. They came now. They're like, okay, so here's your son. So. Yeah, I remember, taking selfie with Kiki,
taking a selfie,
and then I was staying with Kirill, and maybe 40 minutes again, like the time, as I say, it's like the time has stopped at some point, from when Patricia, she sent me the text to, like having, Kirill, and going, like going home. Like I'd say, it was just like one, one moment, I don't know, was it an hour, was it 20 minutes, was it 2 hours? It's just a moment in life.
Yeah.
And what I do remember is that they took him to the ward where the premature babies are, and they had to put some tubes, but they were like everything is fine, and was I scared at the time? I don't think I was scared, because
you just felt that everything would be fine.
No, I think it's just because we're an island, and the healthcare, the doctors here, like everybody is very professional. It's very, they do taking care of you, and I just found myself, okay, like what can I do about it? I have to trust, I have to trust these people. I trust to to what they do, and then again, it's because we already had Annabelle, in the same hospital. So I'm like, look. There's no point to worry. They know what they're doing. They're having kids, like every hour. So what I do remember is that when they put the name, they misspelled the name, of course. And I actually went, and I changed the name on the card.
Yeah.
But what I do remember, is going outside. So I went outside for a walk, because they say so when they took Kiki, they say, okay, well look, now your wife, she's still there, because she was like knocked out, she was unconscious.
That was the best sleep ever. I think that's the only time I slept well in about 4 years.
So I asked, like, okay, how, can I see my wife? Like I can see, my son, he's here, he's fine. When can I see my wife? They're like, look, like you have to come back in 2 hours. And that was already like towards midnight. And I remember, going out. I remember talking to one of the guys, the car park, the security at the car park, and I say, oh yeah, I just had a son, and one of them say, oh yeah, it's my birthday today as well, something like this.
Okay.
I remember going to I was walking, and the hospital is in the town, where I never been in that town except for when we were going to the hospital. So I went out, and I remember going to the store, and I think I haven't eaten anything for over like 24 hours, like like almost, I'd say 36 hours. I haven't had anything, or maybe just a little, just a bite, or so. But I wasn't feeling hungry, I didn't feel like I need to eat something, but I felt like I just I need something. So I remember buying it was a milkshake, like a small milkshake, and I remember buying that milkshake, just going having drinking that milkshake, then coming back to the hospital. And I think at some point Patricia, they brought her out. I think
You don't really remember, it's a blur.
because I think I was waiting for it. I think I came home, it was past 3 or maybe towards 5, but I remember the next day was 10 a.m. Mom came, like, yeah.
So
don't even
so what
remember.
I remember is that I was knocked out, obviously, so I woke up the following day. I had a C-section, and I couldn't get up, I couldn't sit up, so I was just laying in bed. And I checked my phone, and my mom wrote, but she said in French, basically, well, she was asking me, Patricia, are you okay? Is everything okay? Please tell me you're fine, because I'm worried. Because my mom doesn't speak really good English. What Max told my mom is that Patricia is sleeping, and my mom translated it to another thing. So she got very scared, and the first thing in the morning when I woke up, I saw my mom. She came and she saw me, and she was really relieved, and he was still sleeping, because I think mom left. She left very early in the morning.
Maybe, yeah. Now that you say that,
Yeah, I remember, because she left that text, and she was like, Patricia, text me, are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. I'm worried. So I see the text, and then I look up and I see my mom, and she was really relieved. And I understand now as a mother the scare that she had. Like, I would be if I was in her shoes, I would feel the same thing. So I was really shocked to see her. And I was like, Mom, what are you doing here? You need to look after Annabelle. And she said, well, Max told me that you were sleeping, and I got scared. So she was really happy. She gave me a kiss. She told me, do you want to eat anything? I said, no, I'm okay. They're going to give me food. And she left, and she went home to take care of Annabelle. And you were still sleeping. Then you came to the hospital. And I hadn't seen Kirill because I couldn't get up, and the doctor told me that you cannot get up, but what you can do is you can express your milk. So I expressed a lot of milk, and thank God my body just knew what to do, because I just had stopped breastfeeding not long ago, and my body was just working with me. And to be honest, I was really angry at myself, because I was like, why did the placenta stop working? And it's a mystery that the doctors don't know why the placenta just stops working. There's something that they cannot explain, and when this happens, what they do is they take the placenta that stopped working to kind of do some research to see if they can find something. And I hope they find something. I don't know. But yeah, I was angry at myself, because I was taking, throughout the pregnancy, I was making sure that everything was fine. I was making sure that I was eating the right food. I was making sure that I was talking to Kirill. I was just trying to make everything go as smooth as possible. If there's something that I didn't feel was right, we would rush to the hospital, because I just wanted him to be okay. And towards the last weeks of the pregnancy, I felt like I let him down. That's how I felt. I felt angry that my body didn't do what it was supposed to do. So when the doctor told me you can express your milk, and my milk was just flowing like it was a lot of milk, I felt this relieved, and I expressed my milk. And I asked the doctor, can I go and see my son? And she told me, you cannot get up yet. You have to rest. But what they did, they had a picture of him, and they gave me a picture of him, and that picture, he looked so sad. And I will stare at that picture every single, like, those hours felt like days. I just felt like my heart breaking. And my heart was breaking because I wasn't with Annabelle. My heart was breaking because I wasn't with Kirill. My heart was breaking because my body betrayed me. So I just had those conflicting emotions. And so after 48 hours, but even before that, when Max came to see me, I told him, go see Kiki, go to him. You don't need to come to me. I want you to go to him. I want you to hold him. I want him to smell you. I want him to hear your voice. Just leave me alone. Go to him. I'm okay. Because I wanted him to just have one of his parents present, because I knew that I wouldn't be able to see him straight away. I just felt it. I didn't know how long I would be separated from him, but I knew it. So I was just anxious for you to go see him and to hold him and for him to hear your voice, for him to smell you.
Yeah, and I was going there, and Kiki, he was in this, the
incubator, whatever.
Incubator, yeah,
Would you both, Gary? Yeah.
Look, babe, he's there. He's sleeping now, as you can see, and they did feed him, and now the next feed is at 3. He wasn't really hungry this time, but yeah, he's fine, and they give him a bit of this stuff, so he will be strong. He will be strong in a few days.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Kri.
They're actually handy.
He's very cute with his little legs. See? This is our boy. And he looks like me, by the way. Okay? So 3 o'clock I'll be back and feed him myself. Okay? Bisous. There was some other babies as well, and
Yeah.
I remember, but look,
He's fine.
he's fine.
He's just very
he's fine, but he stayed in that ward for. So Patricia, she got released like 2 days later.
No.
So you
that's
came
not.
home 2 days later. They discharge you, and Kiki stays there for like a week. He stays there for for a week.
No, what happened is after 48 hours, I was able to get up. Okay, because I didn't see my son for 48 hours, and that was the most. I don't know how I did it, but my heart was breaking every second. So I didn't see him for 48 hours, and when I was ready to get up, the nurse. I was just in bits. My body was just so tired from pregnancy number 1 and pregnancy number 2. My body was just like, that's too much for you. So I had to force myself to get up, and the nurse saw that I couldn't get up, but I begged her. I was like, no, I have to see my son. I cannot wait for another hour. I have to go see him. So they helped me, put me in a wheelchair, and you actually were there, and you actually brought me into the room, and he has a video of me. So when I saw him, my heart was just. I just felt.
It's nice to see you.
Hello, mommy. Hello, mommy.
Look at this one. She's gorgeous.
Hello, mommy. It's your little Kiki. I've got the cotton buds.
Oh,
Yeah. They're upstairs, so they're really closest here, and then I'll bring it. Hey, Kiki. See? It's beautiful. Little boo boo boo.
I just felt, peace, and I just felt so much relief, and I hold him. I cried as usual. If you haven't, I'm just a crybaby. I cried, and I gave him my breast, and I hold him. I don't know, like mothers, we have this super strength. The next hours, I was actually walking. I walked there very, very slowly, but I walked there, and I went there, and I will hold him, and I will sing to him, and the nurse just let me be. She just let me be, and I was coming like every hour, because I just wanted to make up for the time that I didn't see him, and I will hold him every hour. And I remember this little baby girl who also was in the yard with Kirill, and her parents were very busy, so they couldn't come and see her. And I felt a bit of pain for that little girl. Obviously, you know, it's not her fault. It was the parents that. It's not her parents' fault. They just couldn't be there. But this is something I didn't want for Kirill, so that's why I forced myself to go and to see him and to hold him every single hour. I just wanted to make up for not seeing him for 48 hours. And you know, the mother baby bond is something that you cannot break. He just recognized me. He just recognized my voice, and I will hold him, and I just felt like the way he will just curl up, and he just knew this is mommy and this is what I wanted, basically. You know, he was just like, yeah, this is my mommy, and he will like put his head on my neck and he would just go like this, and I was really happy.
Yeah, so he stayed there for, you know, for the whole week, and just before they were like releasing him, you know, they gave us a room. So, you know, 3 of us, we were sleeping in that room, just beside the ward, which is also, you know, it's I think, you know, this is super, you know, if anyone, you know, from the health service, you know, Irish health service, you know, from Drogheda, you know, watching this video, guys, you know, you
super.
Yeah, you know, if this is not magic, then I don't know what it is, you know.
It's not magic, it's a miracle.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks, you know, thanks a lot for, you know, all support. But I remember, you know, the night in the, you know, in that room, so Kirill, you know, he was there with us, and it was, you know, there's a bed, so there's just like a little, you know, like little room where, you know, the parents and the baby can, you know, sleep just before going home. So they also, you know, like monitoring, like if anything goes wrong, they're right there. So, but everything was fine, and the next day we just, you know, we came home, and Annabelle, the first time when she saw her brother, you know, that was also, you know,
She thought he was a doll.
you know, it was also, you know, it was also fun, you know. So here's the video of Annabelle, you know, seeing Kiki for the first time. And, yes.
Tu peux pas le toucher? Regarde, fais ça, fais ça. On est taqué. Ça commence. It's starting. I want to be kind. Regarde. Ah, okay.
Yeah, since then, you know, Kirill, he's just,
He's a tornado.
you know, he's, yeah, he's a very special guy, you know. And he's a mommy boy, you know, I can tell that. And mommy, you know, she's protecting Kiki, you know, very much. I'm fine with it, you know.
Yeah.
Because the way I see this, you know, now that he's, you know, like a small child, and you know, mommy is there, mommy. But when he, you know, when he will, you know, a teenager, then, you know, the daddy will be.
Mommy will be jealous of all the girls' attention he's getting.
Yeah. So I think, you know, with Kirill, it's really, you know, it's.
He's a miracle baby.
It's those moments in life when you realize, and you know, how fragile, you know, the life is. And you know, for me now, you know, when I'm hearing, you know, the other people, you know, stories, and I'm just, you know, I'm just thinking, and I'm just, you know, like I could never imagine, you know, like I was never imagining, you know, that anything, you know, can happen. But you know, when I was in that situation, you know, when my wife, you know, she texted me and we talked, and I had to, you know, leave, and you know, all this, you know, all this travel and everything, that what's going through my head, like it is difficult. So, you know, now Kirill, like he's I think you know, we do have, I think we had some comments about Kirill and his behavior that, he needs to behave, better, something like this, and,
I mean, for me, I don't see anything wrong with Kirill's behavior, and like, I don't think anything wrong. He's a very active boy.
Super active.
He's super active. He was born with, he was barely 2 kilos. He was barely 2 kilos. And from being this tiny little thing to being this ball of energy, jumping everywhere, it is a blessing. And he doesn't have a bad behavior. No, he's just super active, and I don't care what people think and what they say, because they don't know our story. Well, now you know, and they don't know him. You only see little snippets, if that's the word, of him. You don't see him 24/7. He is very loving. He is such a charmer. This boy knows how to charm me, at least. He's very loving. He's a charmer. He's always giving kisses, giving hugs. He loves to play. He loves to laugh. He has the most contagious laugh. And as time progresses, he will feel more comfortable in the camera. Is that what you said?
No. What I meant is that, people sometimes they see, when he's just, misbehaving, that we're not really giving him, hard time. But I'd say, first of all, he's a child. Second is that, I mean,
I think he doesn't like. Now he's getting used to the camera, but when he sees the camera, he doesn't like this black thing on his face, and he's like, no. But the minute the camera is away from his face, he comes back to who he is. So people love to judge, and it is what it is. I don't mind. He's a boy, he's a miracle baby, and you don't really know him because you only see snip of him here and there. But yeah, I just wanted to share this story because it is a testimony. We are a Christian family. We believe in God, and I always wanted to share this because from his conception to the labor, from his conception to the pregnancy, to the labor, to the delivery, it was so much emotions, and thank God that everything worked out at the end. And I also want to say, I do read the comments suggesting that maybe the Star family, you should have a third baby or whatever. And I know they come from a good place, from a kind place. But what I want people to understand is that pregnancy is no joke, and you don't know the journey of a couple, how it was for them to get pregnant. For us, it was very easy, but you don't know how traumatic the pregnancy or the delivery of the labor has been on that couple. And sometimes a couple is not necessarily ready to add to the family, because obviously you saw how emotional I was during this video. It's been 4 years, but the emotion is still as raw. So there's still this trauma that I'm dealing with, and when the time is right, if this is in God's plan, it will happen. If it's not in God's plan, it's not in God's plan. If it's in his plan, it is in his plan. But I just want to bring this awareness to people to understand that talking about pregnancy is a very sensitive subject for couples because of whatever reason they have, if it's infertility, if it's stillbirth, whatever it is. So I want you guys to be sensitive, sensible when you comment about maybe you should have a third child. And like I said, I know it's coming from a loving place, and let's be honest, we make beautiful babies.
I told my wife from very beginning, when we just, met, that, we're a beautiful couple, and I'm sorry, but, like, when you have a beautiful couple, of course you'll have beautiful babies, and Kiki, I have to tell you, like, he's got his moments, when I'm looking at him, I'm like, boy, this guy,
He's handsome.
So no, seriously.
He's handsome, he's mwah.
Yeah, so
he's handsome. I know.
It's just a matter of time, you know, when this guy, you know, he will be, you know, showing his.
When he will look in the mirror and will be like, "Who actually I'm handsome?" But anyway, I don't want this to come too quickly. I'm enjoying my little baby. And
so, mommy, I think, you know, that was a quiet story, and you know, like, you know, as my wife said, you know, this is something, you know, we want to do it for a long time, and it was not easy to record this video, you know, to talk about this, because, you know, we opened this
we're opening ourselves up.
Yeah, something is really, you know, like really dear, and I just, you know, now before we start recording this, I just told myself, like, look, I hope, you know, YouTube here to stay, so, you know, in 20, 30, you know, 40 years, you know, time, you know, maybe, you know, Kirill and Annabelle, they will continue, you know, doing this channel. To start family, you know, to branch out, you know, do the channel, or yeah, you know, they will sit, you know, in front of the, I don't know, will be a TV there, or, you know, will it be, you know, something, I don't know, you know, but the memory stays, you know, forever. And I think this is a great opportunity, you know, for us as a parents, you know, to talk about this, because, you know, before there was no cameras, before there was no, you know, TVs, before there was no, you know, so those memories, you know, you will have them in your heart, but how would you pass them on? And if you ask me about this, you know, in the next, you know, 10 years, will this memory be as fresh? I don't know. So I think, you know, this is the time, you know, 4 years, you know, but I still remember, you know, I actually remember the events, and who knows, as I say, after 40 years, you know, now Kiki will be 44 years old, you know, watching YouTube.
He will watch it before he's 44. He will watch it when he's 16, even when he's 15. I will tell, here's a story.
Yeah, it will pop up in his recommendation, you know.
No, he will have the password.
You know, there will be like 35 billion views, you know, the video.
Yeah, if you share the video.
Share the video, but yeah, I think, you know, this is a great opportunity for us as a parents, you know, to kind of, you know, talk about this, and, you know, and yeah, Kiki, you know, this is exactly what happened, you know, when you were in mommy's belly.
I love you, my love.
You know, this is, you know, this is the daddy, you know, that had to travel, and, you know, I was the first one to take, you know, the picture of him, you know, to selfie, you know, so
and if you want to us to also do a video of Annabelle's birth, it's not gonna be crying, because it's gonna be actually happy cries. Well, my cries were not sad cries, but I don't know what cries you think they are. I'm just so relieved that everything is fine, and I know a part of me is still traumatized by the whole thing, because obviously, you know, of the cries. But yeah, if you want us to also do our birth experience with Annabelle, just let us know in the comment. Let us know how it was for your own birth. Did you have these scares, you know, when you were giving birth? How was your own pregnancy? And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I feel emotionally drained because we had to take a lot of cuts because I kept crying. So I feel emotionally drained, and I'm really tired now.
Okay, so let's call this, you know, the wrap. Kiki,
I love you,
Daddy love you, you know, Mommy love you, we love you. So so is Annabelle. Annabelle, we love you too very much.
Annabelle is like, it's gonna be jealous.
So we're gonna do the video about Annabelle as well. So. And guys, you know, thanks for watching. You know, as I say, you know, really appreciate, you know, all your comments, you know, all your likes, and it is really great opportunity for us, you know, to share this, you know, not just with our, you know, family, not just leave this in our memoirs, you know, in our, you know, library, but actually, you know, share this with you, because, you know, we're all human beings, and if this video help, you know, someone, if this video, you know, will help you, maybe, you know, maybe you're pregnant now, you know, maybe, you know, this video will help you to kind of, you know, learn what you might expect, you know.
I don't know. I hope it just helps somebody out there, and
yeah.
But for me, I just wanted to testify of God's love in our family and our little miracle fireball that is Kirill, Maxim, Staricov.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, Annabelle and Kirill, you know, are called Irish twins because of the you know, the birth, the time between, you know, them, you know, the
How many months apart?
16. So
Yeah.
there's so little time between two of them, you know. It's actually called Irish twins, so
Yeah.
they are Irish twins.
So we're gonna conclude, yeah?
Yeah, so guys, thanks so much for watching, and again, you know, please do share this video with your friends, you know, your family. Help us grow our channel, and we will continue doing, you know, what we do, filming videos for you, you know, in our life, everyday life. And yeah, we're really glad that, you know, you do like what we do.
Thank you so much, guys, and God bless. Stay safe. Bye.